7-yard touchdown run by the magical quarterback, Lamar Jackson.
Big Keith Trailer, look at him rumble.
The utter punts are back like Big Dave's athlete's foot, itching to talk week 9 of the NFL, irritated by some of this weekend's results, and definitely likely to create flaky patches between your toes.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl. Touchdown! No! No! 24-yard attempt. Oh, he hits the upright. It's no good. Derek Johnson, the all-time leading tackler in the history of the Chiefs. And he misses it. That's impossible. The Cardinals have knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs.
Utter Punts is a podcast made by UK fans of the National Football League. We're here every single week of the 2022 season with everything you need to know. I'm Liam Bradford, Giants fan and journalist. I've got two elite punts alongside me. Vikings madman Dave Keane, our Brummie from another mummy. You all right, Keano?
Oh, I'm good, thank you, mate. But I am wondering when you managed to break in my house and find the flakes of skin in my bin. What the hell were you doing here, mate?
You do not want to know the answer to that question. The brains of the operation next to me, Statman Dan, the Ravens fan with a plan. I'm a rapper and you know it.
I just can't wait to hear you justify picking your home team Bears again this week.
And get in the bin with Keno's flaky toes. Coming up, a review of Week 8. We analyse the trades, preview Week 9 and slap you around the face with a monster double bet builder. Thanks for being with us. Pass me the cream. Yes, welcome back to another Utter Punts. Absolutely delighted to be here. The season is absolutely unfolding in a magnificent way, although Halloween weekend was terrifying. I'm not quite sure any of us managed to pick everything that we wanted to pick, and there were definitely some results that were a little bit freaky over the course of the weekend. Delighted to say that, as always, Dave and Dan are with me. Hello, chaps. How are you?
Good morning.
Hello there.
Yes. Friendly, plenty chatty. Funnily enough, we're recording this on Wednesday evening, as always, and Birmingham City are playing, which means that you're going to get next to nothing out of the big ginger Viking for the next 50 minutes. See, told you. Right, let's do the headlines for this week then, shall we? We are going to pick our favourite trade after trade deadline day and how that unfolded in the NFL. We're going to start with Dan Horton. Which trade really caught your eye, buddy?
It's the Bradley Chubb trade to the Dolphins, and it's because of the history that goes into the trade. So 3 years ago, when the 49ers traded up to with the Dolphins to get Trey Lance, so they moved up from 12 to 3 in the draft to take Trey Lance, which gave the Dolphins 3 first-round picks, one in that year, one this year, and one next year. They've used those picks. So they've used that Trey Lance pick to take Tyreek Hill from the Chiefs, Jalen Waddle, who they drafted that year, and now Bradley Chubb. I think that trade has worked out incredibly well for them. And the NFL is brilliant because you can sit back and watch these things develop over the years. And I think that them accepting that trade from the 49ers has really paid dividends. And they're a contender now.
It feels that way, doesn't it? Dave, have you got anything to say on that trade in particular? Or
I think that they needed a little bit of additional pass rush. They've now got it. I don't think they had particularly high sack totals this year, despite some talent in their defense. Particularly, is it Phillips? I think they've got, who's a pretty sharp player. Yeah. So I can see him forming a pretty good tandem. I actually think that might increase Phillips's production, just simply because no one will be able to scheme as much for him, and Chubb comes with a much bigger name. He is a good player, but he is very much a power rusher to speed. He's not got that much bend. I remember when he came out in the draft, people were most excited by his athleticism, but he wasn't that great in the 3-cone. He's someone, though, that will have an impact, but there is an injury history there. And because I don't want the Dolphins to become too good, I wouldn't mind seeing him pick up the Arden Eagle just to slow him down a little bit, in the
not
future.
That you're bitter in any way, shape or form. All right, I think that's I think that's interesting. Which way have you gone, Dave? I'm guessing you've picked the Vikings, have you?
Well, I'm excited by the trade. So TJ Hawkinson, when he came out of the draft, I think he went number 8 overall to the Lions. He's a tight end. I didn't expect a tight end to be taken that early, simply because in previous drafts, other tight ends they kind of flopped when they've been taken that high up. So I thought he might fall to the Vikings. He didn't. The Lions got him. Now, a few years later, we've got the guy that I think will make us a much better team. His strength in college was not just for receptions; it was his pass blocking as a tight end and his run blocking as a tight end. He makes us multiple. He gives us a different dimension over the middle. Smith Jr. has been a disappointment. Too many injuries. Didn't really have the athletic profile either. So yeah, I'm really excited by this trade. I think that it's going to make us very, very dangerous moving forward, and I expect more production for Jefferson, simply because people won't be able to double up on him. They're going to have to come short. Otherwise, Cousins will keep checking down to his big tight end and we'll keep moving the sticks. It's going to be absolutely awesome to see if O'Connell uses him in the right way. And yeah, really looking forward to the weekend now.
I think what's important with that one as well is that your run game has just started really taking grip, hasn't it? So with Cook and sort of Matterson, they've really started running the ball well. And if you get that balance with at all three levels, you become like an Eagles and a Bills type team where you're running the ball, you can go short and intermediate throws, and you can go deep with Jefferson. And like you say, it opens him up much more. You just need a quarterback to throw the ball to him, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, like, Kirk, though, as everyone else declines, starts to go up the pecking order. I'll put him in the top 12 now, comfortably,
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, Brady's
in the AFC North.
Into the top 12 in the NFC. No, overall, I mean, it's still can you win with a top 12 quarterback? And to be honest, statistically, he's down. But one of the issues with him was he couldn't find a way to win. He is now, with the help of his coach, with the help of an O-line, which has got a lot better. Still one little weakness in Ed Ingram, but he's a rookie. Hopefully he improves. But yeah, Cousins has got every chance of getting away from being a 500 quarterback this year. And it would be kind of great if we took the Packers' normal record and they took our normal record.
I love how we started talking about your brand new tight end and we ended up bashing Kirk Cousins without even meaning to do it. It's almost
I seem to remember that I defended him a little bit there, but probably not to the depth a lot of people would want me to.
I mean, there's defence and there's defence, isn't there? I think the one thing I'd say about Hawk is that he's currently leading the NFL in terms of yards after reception. So 15.2 yards per reception as a tight end is leading the NFL, which is, fairly solid numbers.
Yards after catch of about 8 yards, I think, or maybe 5 yards. My memory's not quite on it for that, but yeah, good little return. And as Kirk loves to throw it 3 yards short of the sticks, like I say, a lot more first downs coming our way.
Right. I've opened myself up to ridicule and humiliation here in the fact that I've gone with the Chase Claypool to the Bears pick.
To your Bears, right?
The Bears.
To your
Bears, yeah.
Yeah, the Bears. I mean, talk about Justin Fields finally finding his feet, showing a little bit of form, and then absolutely backing him by chucking him a weapon in Chase Claypool. I mean, this is it's a big test for him, isn't it? Because if it works, then brilliant, and if it doesn't, then he's got even more questions to answer. But it feels to me like a fairly solid move. The Steelers, I'm not quite sure what's going through their head. They get a second round draft pick for losing one of their top performing wide receivers. I'm not really sure what the Steelers have got out of that. So it's an interesting trade. Dan, what did you make of it?
I think he's surplus to requirements in Pittsburgh. They haven't really got that much of a passing game going, and they've got Deontay Johnson and Pickens, and I think Pickens has come on so quickly, and he's established himself so well so soon that they can take the second round pick, because they need to build some strength in that squad. That they're one of the bottom 5 teams in the league, I think, at the moment, and they need to start thinking about what they're going to do next year and the year after, because they're in demise at the moment. And cashing on someone like that, who they don't really need, he's not that much production there with the other players around him, I think it's a good move for them. I think it's one of those trades that works well for both teams. It did surprise me that the Bears, after selling 2 of their best defensive players, their best 2 defensive players, then go and trade for an offensive player. It doesn't make sense with what their plan is, and it goes back to one of your sort of utter punts at the start of the year, was Ryan Poles, and did he have a real plan? Is this just to appease the fans and try and keep his job? I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to give Roquan Smith up for a second and go and give it to Chase Claypool.
I've got to say, we have got previous for picking these things out way before that they happen, haven't we? So, he was an Utter Punt nomination in week 1, all the way back in the very first episode of Utter Punts, and now we are 10 episodes deep, and all of a sudden it's shining through. Just to keep this thing moving, we did say last week that we were going to do funny NFL names, which, I mean, there's so many that have gone in the past that we've kind of drawn the line and said they've got to be playing in the NFL this season, which is a shame because it means that you rule out several very, very good names in that. Right, let's start with Dan, shall we? Which names have you...
Well, I avoided Randy Bullock because it's too obvious. And Dave and I texted each other the other day and said, "Give me the initials," and we both put RB, and you're exactly who we meant. So yeah. I've gone for a Belizean defensive tackle called Raheem Nathan Nunez Rochez. The fact that he's got Nathan in his name I find hilarious when his name is really Raheem Nunez Rochez, but he sounds like a sort of villain off Star Wars, Nunez Rochez. Wasn't very good on Thursday against the Ravens, to be fair, but I thought he was a funny name.
Go on then, Dave, you pick one.
So I've cheated slightly, but I feel he's worth mentioning. It's a player who the Viking drafted in 2016, but was on a 90-man roster at the start of the season for the Washington Commanders, and his name is Willie Beavers, which I couldn't pass up the opportunity to bring that up.
I'd like to disqualify it for being outside the rules, but I'm not going to just because it's brilliant.
I mean, it had to be raised, right?
Willie? Willie had to be raised. Is that what you're saying?
I was just teeing you up, mate.
Okay.
You go with that wherever your mind went. Anyway, then we've got Shy Tuttle, who's a defensive tackle for the Saints. So I just quite like the way that sounded. Jabril Peppers was a favourite of mine when it came out of the draft, just because of the way it rolls off the tongue. It does roll off the tongue very nicely. Then there's someone who we talk about a lot, but probably don't consider in this light, but Nick Chubb. It's quite painful when you think about it.
Wow.
And finally, this is the best name. It's not a funny name, but it is a great name to say. So Tuaniga Mano Olipola Tagovailoa is the real name of Tua. Yeah. And that is, trust me, a little bit of a mouthful, but
can we give Dave a round of applause for absolutely nailing that first name of Tua Tagovailoa? Absolutely genius. Did you have any more, Dan? No.
Sorry, mate. I enjoyed that bit.
Yeah. Mine did have 4 names in it, to be fair.
I've got 3. I really quite enjoy anybody whose first name is Rock. So Rock Yassin gets in there from the Raiders. Greedy Williams, the cornerback from the Browns, which is just sensational. But my favourite is the offensive lineman at the Kansas City Chiefs, Prince Tega Wanogho. Yeah. I mean,
that's a nice name.
What a big name that is.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
I did want Captain Munnerlin from a few years ago because that's another great one to say.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
call
Dick
your kid
Butkus
Captain.
should be in every top 10 list of names ever, shouldn't it? Look, if you enjoy this kind of content, we would love to hear from you. You can get in touch with us in multiple ways. The easiest way is either via Twitter or Instagram. Just search for Utter Punts. Fire us the names that you think are the best in the NFL at the moment. That would be brilliant. And whilst you're there, if you can just subscribe to the pod and maybe share it with a friend, that would be absolutely mega. We are trying to get to more people's ears, and we can only do that with the help of the people that are already listening to us. So thank you very much if you are listening, and do share us with a friend if that's at all possible. Every week we take a look back at the previous week's fixtures, the ones that were on the telly. As you can imagine, last week, with there being so many games on the telly, it was quite a big roundup. Here it is. The first stop on our whistle-stop tour is the Baltimore Ravens at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the struggling Bucs have been beaten again, this time by an inspired Lamar Jackson in Tampa. The human highlight reel threw for 238 yards and a pair of second-half touchdowns on Thursday night to secure a 27-22 win over Tom Brady. This means that Brady's now on a 3-game losing streak for the first time in 20 years. You have to go back to his first full season as a starter at the Patriots in 2002 to find another 3-game skid for the GOAT. Denver Broncos at Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, so this was a better game than I thought it was going to be, at least. The Broncos have now snapped that 4-game losing streak, and it was all down to the message that Russell Wilson delivered in the huddle. Hey, listen, we're going to go 98 yards right here. Believe in it. And believe in it, they did. 2 go-ahead scoring drives led by Wilson, who finished on 252 yards and a touchdown. Here he is after the game.
Well, I thought it was huge for us, obviously, to be in London, to come out here this whole week. It's been a spectacular week for us. You know, we prepared better than ever, I think. We battled. We knew we were going to go against a tough team. They got a lot of great players and young guys that can really play, and so I think that was important for us. But just to overcome, be resilient. Obviously, the season hasn't gone the way we want it to, and it's not over yet. There's a lot more to do. There's a lot more that we want to accomplish.
Next up, Patriots at Jets. What happened here? I think we all thought the Jets would win this one, didn't we? But Bill Belichick is never one to roll over. He passed George Halas for second place on the NFL's all-time career victories list with a 22-17 win over the Jets. Quarterback troubles aside, the Patriots' Mac Jones finished 24 of 35 with 194 yards and a touchdown to his name. Not bad. Belichick was pleased with his side's turnaround on a short week.
Good division win on the road, and good Jets team. They do a good job, and like I said, defensively they're tough. We knew that coming in, and they certainly played to it. So good to get out of here with a win in the division, and we'll move on. But proud of the way the team stepped up on a short week here and came in and got the win today.
Rams at 49ers next. Wow, what a trade Christian McCaffrey is looking to be, and what a side to show it against. CMC threw, caught and rushed for a touchdown against the side that was also vying for his signature. Yup, you heard me right. He threw a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk, he caught one from Garoppolo, and he made a 9-yard touchdown run to secure a 31-14 win at the Rams. Only 11 players in NFL history have managed that feat. He's now one of them. Green Bay at Buffalo, and a 27-17 win for the Bills in Orchard Park, but everyone's chatting about the verbals between Stephon Diggs and Jair Alexander during the warm-ups. Mind games maybe, but Diggs had the last word with a game-high 6 receptions for 108 yards and a 26-yard touchdown catch. The whole game was a bit edgy too. Key Walker thrown out of the game for a shove on the Bills practice squad tight end Zach Davidson. The only downside to this was that we never really got to see that hotly anticipated battle between the quarterbacks Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen. And finally, Cincinnati Bengals at Cleveland Browns. Look, I know it was Halloween, but the NFL really was a bit scary this weekend. Some of our picks were a bit off, but this was plain weird. For the first time this season, the Cleveland Browns put it all together and played like a complete team. Offense, defense, special teams, and they ran out with a 32-13 win over the Bengals, who never got going. This was the Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett show on either side of the ball. Nick Chubb with 2 touchdowns, and Garrett led a defense that sacked Joe Burrow 5 times and held the Bengals to just 229 total yards. There you go then, week 8 on the TV, all wrapped up for you on Utter Punts, and time to move on to this week's games. Now, fewer games this week. We've gone back to the normal Thursday, Sunday early, Sunday mid, Sunday late, and then Monday night games. So we'll start at the beginning of those, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Houston Texans. And if anybody says anything other than a Philadelphia Eagles win here and a romp, I will be absolutely astonished. Dave, kick us off, would you?
Philadelphia Eagles win here. I mean, for me, the Eagles are just getting stronger. I don't really care who they're playing at the moment. I will always be picking the Eagles. And this weekend is no different. And Blues are still playing. Carry on.
Okay, good stuff. Have the Eagles got a chance, Dan, of going through this season without losing a game? They're looking incredibly strong.
Yeah, and and they're getting stronger, aren't they? So they're not really getting bitten by any injuries. They've strengthened in the trade window again. So they've now got extra players on the pass rush just to make sure. They were resting sort of starters in the fourth quarter against Pittsburgh on the weekend. So ahead of them having a short week this week is just they seem to be really well organised and really well coached, and they've got a plan for sort of stepping through this season as well as they can. This is for me probably the best team in the league against probably the worst team in the league. And it's hard to sort of make a case for it being any sort of close game. The Thursday night games in the previous years have always been a bit chaotic. They've always been a bit mad, the Thursday night games. Actually, this year they've been pretty straightforward. And I reckon on Thursday night it's been incredible.
Have you seen the memes regarding the Amazon purchase of the Thursday night games?
Yeah.
Yeah, worst signing of the entire season. They only show them the first fixture, and then after that, absolutely hammer them. I don't know if that's true. No one does, but quite fun to think about.
I mean, there's been some what you would think would be decent games, but they've by the time the season starts, it soon changes, doesn't it? And I'm looking at Sunday night football, looking forward, and Rams Bucks. Wow, what a great game that would have been on paper in week one, but Christ, no one wants to watch that now, do they? The only thing that could happen in this game is I think it'll be tighter than people think, only because I think the Eagles won't try and show anything. They'll try and do this as easy as possible and give themselves an extra bit of time on a longer sort of week off. And I can see them sort of playing backups at running back and just keeping the game tight. The Texans will only run the ball, which means the game will be quite short. It might be a game of lower possessions, which means you might get lower points and the difference might be lower. The Texans aren't the lowest handicap of the week. That's the Titans. So the Texans at home, they're getting 14.5 points. I don't think that's enough, but I can't see it being sort of 60 points to 10. I think the Eagles will put in their backups. I think Gainwell will probably run the ball more than Sanders. I think Boston Scott will have a good game as they get the control of the game, just to sort of put the game away. That would be my steer. It'd be quite low, really.
Yeah, my interest lies in Brandon Cooks to see whether or not he actually turns up to play. Because
see what
I
he
think,
said.
Yeah, and it was something along the lines of you shouldn't ever take advantage of a kind man.
I've kept your secrets for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously we've got the Texans there, right? So maybe he felt that he had enough leverage to get himself trade out of there. Yeah. Unfortunately, they didn't trade him. I think that's probably because his salary was so prohibitive. The Texans would have had to eat an awful lot of 20 million next year in order for anyone to be able to justify bringing him in this year. And I think that's probably what counted the likes of the Packers out of it. I know their fans were pretty upset that they didn't get a trade in. But when you're 3-5, it's hard to attract players.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so this is how it works. We take a little look at the game and then we'll give you a prediction on who we think's going to win, and then we'll try and find you a little bit of value in the betting market. So let's go predictions first, and then Dan can guide us towards where we think that the money is in terms of value. Keno's already given us his. I'm going to ask him again. Which way is this one going, Keno?
Texans. No, obviously the Eagles.
Yeah, 100% Eagles for me as well. Dan?
Yeah, it's the Eagles all day. I just... On one of the bet bills on Sky Bet, you can get the Texans plus 19.5, which is, it's a hell of a lot of points, even though they are the worst in the league. But an under 49 points in the game is 7-4, which you're getting a massive head start, sort of a 3-touchdown head start. The other one I looked at was an anytime touchdown scorer, Kenneth Gainwell, because I do think he'll be playing more snaps than Sanders, and he's 100-30 to score any time in the game. That's
nice.
And I quite like that because he's probably going to play more snaps and he's probably going to be the RB1 in this game, I would think. So you're getting decent value there on the speculation that he's going to play more than Sanders. But if the game's tight, he probably won't. But that would probably be a bit of a steer.
Good. That's really one-sided. So we'll rattle past it. It's Sunday, 6:00 is our next stop, and it's the Dolphins at the Chicago Bears. Pack it in, the pair of you. Don't even start. Don't leave it. My Giants lost for the second time.
Mine
this
and
season.
Dave's Dolphins versus your Bears.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a fan of Tua. I quite like Tua.
Tua and mine, Daniel. Very good pair.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's talk about the game, shall we? This is another one of those that should be relatively one-sided, Dan.
Well, yeah, but the bookies don't think so. So your team are at home, Liam, and so the Dolphins are they're 4-9 outright. So without any points or anything, they're 4-9 to beat your lot. And I think if you're looking at what they've done and what they've added, they've added Jeff Wilson as a second running back to back up Raheem Mostert. They've obviously added Bradley Chubb on defense, and Waddle and Hill look fit and healthy, and so does Tua. Gesicki looks like he's at full strength. This should be absolutely one-sided, I think. I think there's one team trying to win and going all out to try and win this year, and there's another team trying not to. And whenever you get that, even though the game's in Chicago, I think the Dolphins are a decent price, and I think they're by far and away the clear favourites for me in this game, just with the firepower they've got.
Is the weather potentially a factor here for Miami?
It could be, yeah, but they can. Like I say, with Jeff Wilson and Mostert, they can run the ball, and they have been running the ball really, really well. And they only need really one or two balls to break with Hill and Waddle, and they'll open the game up. I think in a tight game, the Dolphins would probably win it, and I think in an open game, they definitely do.
I think I can give you a little bit of hope for you boys there, Liam. I think the
I
weather
couldn't
will.
give a shit, just so we're clear.
The lady does.
Honestly, I think the weather will play a factor. I think we need to learn from what we see this season. And when the Bears play in the wet, in the cold, they tend to do well. I think it suits Fields. It's much more difficult for other people to get their footing to get after him, especially when they're larger than him. I expect the Dolphins to win, but if the weather does get involved, I think your lads can sneak a little victory here, Liam. Possibly cover couple of points.
Can I ask a question, a serious one? How is it when you profess your love for Teddy Bridgewater, they don't become like your Dolphins? And when Dan tells everybody how much he appreciates the Bradley Chubb going to the Dolphins, they don't become Dan's Dolphins.
I'll have the Dolphins.
But the second that I say that I quite like what Justin Fields is doing, they become my Bears. How does that work?
Quite like what Justin Fields is doing. Do you realise just how much favouritism you showed when you made that statement? It's Justin Fields. You said it before the season. You've been telling us about Justin Fields since you watched that documentary on him.
No. So I need to make a correction here. So I've looked back at the original draft from Liam and my team, and it wasn't Justin Fields he recommended. It was Jake Fromm. That was the chap from the documentary that you watched.
No, it wasn't. It was Justin Fields.
It was Justin Fields. It was Justin Fields. Well, Don't put Jake Fromm on him. Come on.
It wasn't Jake Fromm.
You're robbing us of any credibility here, Dan.
It wasn't. And I remember this. I remember exactly what happened. We were going for Justin Fields, and then somebody else took him, and we needed another quarterback. And then I said, well, what about Jake Fromm? He's cheap.
I don't think Justin Fields has been in a documentary. We'll look back.
He was in the documentary.
The Jake Fromm documentary.
100% was in the documentary. And do you know what?
Who's Jake Fromm playing for now? Who does Liam Anthony?
Not my fantasy team anymore.
This has been hijacked. Prediction for this game, please, gentlemen.
I'm going to go Dolphins.
Dan?
Yeah, Dolphins for me. And you can get the Dolphins to win and under 48 points at 9-4, which I think is pretty good. We also need to pick a touchdown scorer in this for the pub. So last week we got Christian McCaffrey right and everyone got a free pint. I think there was a few people in there, Sam said, so that was really positive. This week we need to pick a touchdown scorer. Liam, are you going Fields or Montgomery?
Claypool.
Your new superstar?
I'm going to go Tyreek Hill is where I'm going.
I wrote Hill Waddle. Take your pick. Really. Pick your person.
Maybe Mostert, depending on whether or not the weather's terrible. But yeah.
Let's go with Hill, because if anything's going to happen now that they haven't got Roquan Smith, they're going to have to commit their safeties a little bit further forward. That'll leave space in behind. Both Waddle and Hill will feast, but one of them's going to have a big game.
Right. So the producers delivered potentially the only useful thing since the start of the season by saying Justin Fields appeared in the QB1 documentary. So I was right. He was in the documentary. Thank you very much indeed. Right. Moving swiftly on before I get even more pelters here. Rams at Bucks. Dan's already touched on this one ever so briefly. This looked like it should be one that we would really look forward to. It would be a battle of the quarterbacks here, potentially, one of those really interesting ones. And unfortunately, it's just not got any kind of gloss or shine at the moment, Dave, has it?
No, it hasn't. I mean, it's a bit unfortunate, really. The Rams have basically apparently tried to trade 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns for the Panthers, by the way. I heard that on something today, which, you know, ambition. But seriously, how many years do you want to go without having a first-round pick?
How have they got 2 picks left?
I mean, there must be like future ones, which is presumably why the bid was turned down. But yeah, I mean, I have to have a look into that. I've not quite got the old draft head on at the moment, but like, yeah, it will be interesting to see exactly when the Rams actually have a full complement of picks again. But they're kind of like not doing that great. I've seen suggestions that they might be one of the first Super Bowl champions to actually then fail to make the playoffs the following season, which would be very, very. I mean, you would never have guessed that last year when they're building that superstar team, but there were the rumours that, you know, them and the pretty logical thought process that it probably isn't sustainable for long. So maybe this is a recovery year for them, but it just doesn't seem to be a fixture that is particularly demanding any attention. I'm not 100% sure why it's been picked as a spotlight game, other than the fact that Brady's currently in the press for other reasons. And I think they finally settled their divorce this week. I think it was pretty amicable. Maybe Brady actually has got a chance to get his head back on and focus on doing some positive things. And that's why I'm tempted to go with the Bucs this time out. I think Dan might disagree.
Well, this is the story of this game, isn't it? Because it stops being about the Rams at the Bucs and it starts being about whether or not Tom Brady can right the ship, excuse the pun, when I'm talking about the Buccaneers. This is the first time since his first season as a full starter at the Patriots back in 2002, that he suffered a 3-game skid like this. And that it's a test for him, but all of a sudden, all of the cameras are pointed at TB12. Every pen is poised, ready to write the story. Regardless of what happens, he's either a hero because he's turned it round, or he goes on a 4-game losing streak, and all of a sudden everybody's writing him off. Dan, this has stopped necessarily being about the competition of the NFL and has started being all eyes on Tom Brady, hasn't it?
Yeah, he hasn't had a 4-game losing streak for a long time, but he also hasn't missed a pre-season like he has for a long time. He also hasn't the lack of preparation he's had going into the season for a long time. You know, he had a brand new offensive line when you let going into the season. We said they'd have a slow start, but he spent no time with them trying to build them and build that rapport with them. His chemistry with Mike Evans is awful. He missed. People are saying sort of he's not playing too badly, and I think there's some throws that you can say actually that's still a Tom Brady throw, but he's throwing balls into the dirt that plays are wide open. It was a terrible performance. Probably it's the worst Tom Brady performance I've seen. It was against the Ravens last Thursday. That said, and I think the Rams against the team that hasn't got a pass rush are a good team still. But I don't think they're going to have Cooper Kupp. And even if Cooper Kupp plays, I think he's going to be 50%. They might have him on the field as a decoy. Without him, who are the Rams? I mean, they've got nothing. But the Bucs haven't got the pass rush that has haunted the Rams so far this year. So Shaq Barrett's out for the season. So they've not got a pass rush that could get to the Rams. But the Rams haven't got any firepower to sort of do damage to the Bucs secondary. So it's kind of two wet fish fighting each other, isn't it? There's nothing to the game really. Bucs at home, Mike Evans is fit, Chris Godwin's fit, Julio Jones is fit. Surely they'll win, won't they?
Well, I couldn't help but think when you said Cooper Kupp's only going to be at 50%, and would
might not play at all.
Would a 50% Cooper Kupp still be the best wide receiver on the Packers?
Yeah,
he would, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Just like to make that point.
You'd be the best wide receiver on the Packers, I think.
I'm pretty good though, mate.
At the moment.
I've got, can hold people off with my mass.
I mean, you and I, Dave, are definitely more tight ends than wide receivers.
100%.
Just so we're putting it out there. I mean, I'm closer to an offensive lineman than I am to a tight end, so that should explain everything that you need to know.
I've bust some roots on our producer though, mate. Bust some roots on him. I'm a bitch.
But so producer Bell has now decided that he wants to be part of this podcast after being missing for several weeks. He says Keno's an incredible wide receiver. It's weird. You mean he can catch the ball? Because
and run routes.
There's no chance you're running a route quickly.
Oh man, you wouldn't believe the change in direction I've got for a big guy. Promise you. It's weird.
Good feet for a big man. Is that what we're saying?
No, not for a big man. I've got good feet, and I am a big man. It's weird.
Are you having this?
I've got
Brummie
size
Megatron.
14 feet, mate. So I don't know if that helps me like pivot off, but like I can cut at weird angles for people.
Do you also have a small car that several other clowns get out of?
Yes.
Predictions on Rams at Bucks, gentlemen. Dave?
I'm going to go with the Bucks.
I'm going to go with the Bucks too. Dan?
Yeah, I'd like to wait a little bit on it, but obviously we can't. I'd say the Bucks at home, but if Cup plays, I think the Rams could beat them because I don't think the Bucks can do anything up front.
No, it's definitely close. I mean, there's nothing definitive here. I just don't believe that Brady will lose 4 in a row.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at as well. And that's, I mean, I've basically called myself out there, haven't I, saying that we're all focused on Tom Brady rather than on the game. But actually, I'm basing my prediction on the fact that I don't think Tom Brady's going to lose 4 in a row. So where's the value? Any value? One to steer clear of?
It's definitely one to steer clear of because they're just two teams trying to figure each other out at the moment. It could go very one-sided either way or just be very dull and very, very quiet. The Bucks need to get Rashad White in the game. Fournette is doing nothing for them at the moment. He doesn't sort of turn up to the playoffs. And they need a bit of impetus at sort of running back. We need a touchdown scorer in this, guys, for the bar. Oh my God.
Nobody's getting a free pint here, are they?
I mean, like normally Cooper Cup, right? But
yeah, so I thought Evans, but maybe Ramsey will be on Evans. So he's Godwin the bet, or is it Fournette really for the goal line?
Do you know what? I reckon that if they're going to have any chance at all, they should be running off Aaron Donald a lot like the 49ers have been doing against the Rams. I'd have thought that they'd see that, and if that's the case, it's going to probably be Fournette, right? Who's their back who catches out of the backfield for them?
Well, Rashad White. So they did have Giovanni Bernard, but he's injured. So they drafted Rashad White, didn't they, the rookie? And he played well against the Ravens. He had a couple of decent plays that shot them. Then they went away from him, surprisingly.
So he might be worth a quid if he's a decent anytime touchdown scorer. But in terms of what we're doing here for the pub, probably Fournette is a safe bet. Would you say?
Playoff Lenny, yeah. 3 pint Lenny.
So Fournette is. Let's just wrap this up then, because we just need to explain exactly what we're talking about when we talk about the pub. The pub is the Nook and Broom in a place called Bramall, which is in South Manchester. They show the 6 o'clock games, the 9 o'clock games on several screens. Great venue, good bar. The kitchen's even open if you want to get down there for the 6 o'clock start. The food's mega in there as well. Really, really good. They want a bigger NFL audience. They've partnered with us. We've partnered with them. And essentially, the long and the short of it is that if either of the touchdown scorers that we have picked this week go in for an anytime touchdown, Dan, what do people get?
3 pint.
3 pint. See? It's free booze. We are winning you free booze. All you've got to do is get yourself down to the Nook and Broom in Bramall and hope that we've picked correctly. Right, so Nook and Broom, Bramall, the anytime touchdown scorer in the Dolphins at Chicago Bears game is Tyreek Hill. Yeah. And the anytime touchdown scorer in the Rams at Bucks game is Leonard Fournette. So if either of those pick up a touchdown anytime, it is a free pint at the bar for you if you're in the Nook and Broom in Bramall at any point on Sunday. The late game on Sunday is... why is this not filling me with any joy at all, this game? Tennessee Titans at Kansas City Chiefs. Dan's pulled that face that goes, you know nothing, Jon Snow. So away you go, Dan.
But you're talking about, the number 1 seed from the AFC last year. So, and the Titans are a good team. They're well coached. They're well organised. They've got a good run game. They've got a strong defense. They're hard to beat, and they certainly don't beat themselves. So these are the biggest underdogs of the week. That's who I'm talking about, and I think that's unfair. The Chiefs should win the game. They're at home. They're a better team. They're probably one of 2 or 3 teams that you can rely on, unless they're playing the Colts, to sort of play well and win. But the Titans are no mugs. They've been blown out a couple of times earlier this year, but they really seem to have figured themselves out a little bit. And the point spread in this is 15.5, and it's too much, and it's a bit disrespectful. As good as the Chiefs are, and as good as the Chiefs have been playing recently, I think that's disrespectful on the Titans, Dave.
So last year, what was it? 27-3, but not for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
It was to the Titans. Now, you think about the way the Chiefs play. What they want to do is they want to have drives with Mahomes in, generating explosive plays, throwing the ball around, keeping the offense involved, keeping them hot. what do the Titans do? They keep the ball, they run it, and they play a mean defense. Now, before the season started, I remember us not picking the Titans to win their division. I think we thought they might be falling away from the crest of the mountain. I think we underestimated Mike Vrabel. I think we can hold our hands up and accept that. Also, I think Derrick Henry coming back and being the legend that he is, he's got the same number of 200-yard games now as is equal the record. I don't know if it's Adrian Peterson who's got that with him. Probably isn't. I'm just biased in his favour. But the truth of the matter is, if a team is tailor-made to hurt the Chiefs, I think it is the Titans. And I can't believe they've been given 15.5 points. I know that we were proven wrong last week when we thought the Bengals at 2.5 points was a steal. Then Chase got injured, and that's what changed it, isn't that right, Dan? Yeah. And like, quite frankly, this time around at 15.5 points, I do think that's an absolute steal.
I think just touching back on that Bengals game, there is a new utter punts rule, and that is no part of our picks are allowed to be included if they happen on Halloween. Because
6 days ahead of when we picked it.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a bit of a stretch, and also that's the first time that the Browns this season have actually put everything together. Like, how were we to know?
Well, we did say Garrett would have to have a game of his life. It maybe wasn't the game of his life, but it definitely looked like the old Myles Garrett from before his car accident. He looked great.
And to complement it, the Bengals, having lost just one player, decided to go back to their week one game plan of let's throw it no more than 4 yards.
Yeah. Also, one of the things I realised is Burrow's never beat the Browns, which, like, my Browns mate told me quite smugly when telling me that they'd definitely beat them this weekend, and was proven correct.
Yeah, five sacks on Joe Burrow in that game, as you heard in the roundup a little bit earlier on. Right, predictions all round there, boys. Titans at Chiefs. Dan?
I think the Chiefs win, but it's a lot closer than that.
I'm going to go Chiefs too, because I can't see it going any other way. Dave?
I'm going to say the Titans cover. And do you know what? I like the value of a few quid on them. I don't see why not, basically. I think the media and the bookies might be overhyping the Chiefs' offense just based on their recent performances, which is great. But they've been rocking previously and run straight into the Titans' wall. So we'll see.
Where's the actual money coming from on this one?
I mean, it's just the Titans. So the Titans at plus 15.5 is sort of 4-6, which I think is just a cracking bet, and we're going to put it in with some others later on. I think.
Yeah, we are
to make up our bet for the weekend, because that is just. We just think it's too many points. The Titans are a good team. They'll make the playoffs this year. They'll win their division. They deserve some respect, and I think we're going to put it on them today.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And lastly, that takes us to Baltimore Ravens at New Orleans Saints. Dan, we always let you go first, considering you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. You appear to have found your feet, and Lamar had a good game last week, and all of a sudden you've found a way to win, and things are looking a little bit more rosy in the Ravens camp, aren't they?
They certainly are, and the Ravens are starting to look at one of the dangerous teams that can maybe step up out of the pack and sort of make a run here. And I sort of always look at it with sort of from a negative point of view, because I never think we're going to win. But they played really well against Tampa Bay. The first quarter, they allowed Tampa sort of to burn themselves out. It felt like it was like when watching a Rocky film. They just let them punch themselves out, and then from the end of the second quarter way through the game, the Ravens just ran all over them, and it's like they softened them up. It was brilliant to watch, and the game plan was fantastic. And even though they lost Mark Andrews in the game and Rashad Bateman didn't play, the rookie that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, Likely, came in and had a tremendous performance, and he's catching the end zone. But what a great sort of skill player he looks like in addition to them. Surprised they didn't go for somebody in the trade window, with sort of some players knocking about, but they think they've got enough. Devin Duvernay stepping up. So DeMarcus Robertson's been playing well. So the Ravens probably think they've got enough. What scares me about this is that the Saints are one of those teams that is hot and cold. So I keep sort of picking the Saints, and whenever I do, they absolutely destroy me. And when I don't, they really play well. So they got Kamara involved at the weekend against the Raiders, and he was sort of lights out. They're still short on receivers. And I think the Ravens can probably cover Kamara. I don't think they've struggled against running backs, really, the Ravens. So I think that's something we can stop. And then you're putting it on Dalton. But Dalton has a reputation of being a bit of a Raven killer. He's done it a few times. But who's he going to throw the ball to? And with Roquan Smith in the centre of that defence now, with Patrick Queen, I can see us getting a lot of pressure on the Saints and on Dalton. I think under that pressure, I think he will falter again. It's hard to sort of put the Ravens on the road again against the Saints, but I think of the two teams going in, they're the most consistent, they're the most balanced, they've got it on both sides of the ball, they're good on special teams, they're less likely to make a mistake, and they've got the best player on the field with Lamar. So I'm going to go with the Ravens again, but I think there's always danger if on a Monday that Michael Thomas is back, Chris Olave's back, Jarvis Landry all of a sudden come back, and the Saints are a different team, but I don't see it at the minute. I don't think their coaching's up to scratch. I think they're making a lot of mistakes. And I think this is a Ravens win. I hope so.
Yeah, really good analysis there. The only sort of thing that I'd add is with Roquan Smith having been brought in, I think he's more effective against the kind of running back that Kamara is. Same with Queen. So I think that if the Saints were really going to be able to soften you up, they'd be leading with a bigger back to go up against the smaller linebackers. And I think that the man who might have hurt you actually got put back onto their practice squad and then signed up by the Broncos, and that was Latavius Murray, who got a touchdown in the win for the Broncos at the weekend, as Liam explained earlier. So it's an interesting one. I don't think you're going to struggle, to be honest. You know how I feel about these Saints. I was astounded that they managed to nil the Raiders. And when I looked at it, I just thought the Raiders' play calling was abysmal. I can basically see Mac Jones getting his preferred offensive coordinator back before the midpoint of this season, potentially, if they carry on the way they are. And I wouldn't surprise me if Belichick did want to bring him back because, Patricia's not exactly lighting it up either, is he? So, for me, I'm going to go Ravens. I don't particularly see the Saints as too much of a threat. I just think the Raiders were that poor last weekend, and it does make me wonder if Daniels isn't failing at his second point of stay as a head coach. I'm worried for him.
Much of a rope.
No, I'm worried for him. He won't get much of a rope there.
My other comment on it was just speed. So what the Ravens showed on Thursday against the Bucs was they're a fast offense now. They're really quick, and they can move players around, and I think that will hurt this. This Saints defense has not been what it was last year. It's not been what we thought it might be coming into the season. They are slow, and a slow front against the Ravens is dangerous because Kenyon Drake's been playing well. Lamar's obviously starting to open up. And Duvernay on the sort of the sweeps and the short plays has been sort of making hay. So I think speed will out, and I think the Ravens are the quicker team, especially in a dome.
I feel like I should go with the Saints here. I can't really explain why I should go with the Saints, other than a feeling that I might want to annoy Dan. The problem is
good as any, good a reason as any.
It is. But if I can't offer a genuine thought as to why I think the New Orleans Saints are going to beat the Baltimore Ravens, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So given that, I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints. Just I don't know, gut feeling.
Mate,
maybe there's a hiccup in Baltimore.
I just think the Saints have been inconsistent, haven't they, all year? So at the Saints' best, how good are they? We don't really know. The Ravens have led every game this year, all 8 games, by 10 points or more. They're a good team. And they should have a better record than they have. And if they can go into the bye 6-3, I think that's about right for them. They deserve to be there.
You say that, but out of the 6 games that you've had away, you've thrown those 10-point leads away 4 times or something. So maybe there's something in that. Maybe I'm clutching at very few straws here, just to try and.
I think it was Bill Parcells who used to say, "You are what your record is." So.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean. I think the Ravens look like they should be a 6-3 team. So that's kind of what I mean by it. I think they are.
I like being a Vikings fan, but I wish I was an Eagles fan.
We all wish we were Eagles fans at the moment. Right, so there's the predictions. Bet wise, what's the way to go here?
Ravens outright. If we think they're the better team, it's sort of 4-5 either way. So I would just go Ravens win.
I would too.
Fair enough. After we've rounded up all of these games, we give a treble. I want to tell you about something else that we'd like to start doing on the podcast. We'd like to start reading out some correspondence from people. We'd like to start giving some of your messages out and answering some of your questions. The only way that we can do that is if you like, subscribe, and get in touch with us. So that's what I'd like you to do. If you're listening to the podcast at the moment, just make sure that you subscribe in your podcast provider, share it with a friend, and drop us a line. Like, even if it's a message in the reviews on iTunes or on Spotify, it would be really, really really good to hear from you. If you'd like to get in touch direct, you can do so via Instagram or via Twitter. Just search for Utter Punts Pod on Twitter or Utter Punts UK on Instagram. Get in touch, send us your messages, and hopefully we'll be able to start reading some of those out. The last thing that we do in terms of betting is come up with a treble for the weekend. This is 3 lines of bet to try and win us some cash. Have we made a decision on what that treble is going to be this week, boys?
Well, the treble's going to be a double. So we don't like that Bucks Rams game, and we found enough value in the other 2 Sky games on the Sunday to really make this work. So it's a 2-1 bet, and it's the Dolphins minus 4 points, and the Tennessee Titans plus 15.5. If you put those 2 in a double together, it pays 2-1. Now, the people at Sky Bet have very kindly given us a £100 free bet to put on this. So we're going to go for that. So our £100 free bet courtesy of Sky Bet is going on the Finns minus 4 points and the Titans plus 15.5, and that pays 2-1.
Good stuff. So Sky Bet, it's dead easy to use as well. It's one of the easier ones that I've got on my phone. So yeah, it'd be good to see some people getting involved in that. If you absolutely get the opportunity, that would be great. Oh, and just as we were going to carry on talking, the 2-minute warning has gone, which means it's time for Utter Punts of the Week nominations. Dave, you had a bit of trouble this week, didn't you? You couldn't find anybody that you really felt was deserving of a title of Utter Punt of the Week.
No, but I'm quite liking the running theme of doing repeating ones. I would like to nominate. No, not him. It's not fair. I've been told off. Apparently, I shouldn't do it. But I do think the Packers should have done everything that they could to get Aaron Rodgers some help. So the general manager that lives up to the way I want to say his surname is my nomination for Utter Punt of the Week.
How about you say his surname?
Should we just call him Brian?
Brian Guter.
No, I think we got there. I'm going to go with Dan Snyder. I'm going to be really careful here so I don't end up getting myself in trouble. He's now apparently hired the Bank of America to explore, and I quote, potential transactions, end quote, for the sale of the Commanders. And yet somehow he seems to believe that he's not being pressured out of that job, despite those allegations of a toxic club culture, of sexual harassment, of accounting misdeeds, and the bungling of a new stadium proposal. Allegations, 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 and in case the lawyers are listening, allegations of all of those things. However, it does qualify him as Utter Punt of the Week. Dan Snyder. Dan?
Innocent until proven guilty, surely. Sorry, Dan.
But innocent until in front of the Court of Commons where he has to stand.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Liam. It just seems a little unfair. That man could be perfectly nice.
As a long-in-the-tooth journalist with plenty of experience of reporting on these situations, I made it abundantly clear that the man was facing allegations of a toxic club culture, sexual harassment, accounting misdeeds, and the bungling of a new stadium proposal. They're all allegations. They're all things that he's got to answer, has answered, will continue to answer. But again, I stress allegations.
Eddie Pinheiro. Let's go to some safe waters, shall we?
I like
Eddie
that,
Pinheiro, the kicker of Dave Panthers, right? So misses an extra point after an incredible, probably the catch of the season now, I think, from DJ Moore.
It was amazing.
30 seconds to go. Incredible catch. And I don't want to hear that DJ Moore shouldn't have taken his helmet off and celebrated. They knocked him back 15 yards. I don't want to hear it because it made the extra point, a 40-yard extra try, which he missed. He's got one job. He missed it. So, and even if he hadn't taken his helmet off and celebrated, in overtime, Pinheiro then missed a 32-yard field goal. So he'd have missed the extra point anyway. You utter punt. You just cost your team first place in the division.
And us to potentially
one job
conviction, right? But I still like him because somehow, despite the fact that he consistently misses kicks throughout his career in key moments, he still manages to be employed in the NFL. So you got to take your hat off for that, surely.
Yeah,
surely.
Utter Punt of the Week. Good stuff, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed. Now, thing of beauty, we all actually get to have a pint together in the same place at the same time on Sunday this week, which is going to be absolutely joyful. Even producer Andy is turning up for this one,
Is he,
which is
though?
nothing short of a miracle. The fact that he's going to be in the same place as us at the same time means that we can all give him a slap for not turning up for 4 weeks in a row or whatever it was. So quite looking forward to that. Gentlemen, Dan, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Dave, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
There it is. And we'll see you again next week on Utter Punts. Like, subscribe, share with a friend.